Yes, he is. Yeah, he is. He is.
And I like the compliments, which makes sense.
Okay. Between Grant and I.
Benny didn't agree with me, but he said, okay.
So,
All right. We're good?
So we have to open the public hearing.
We're resuming.
well, we're coming back from recess, all right? So now at this time, since we're back, I think now we have to open a hearing for our budget.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we open a hearing to hear the 2019 budget presentation.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, I believe we have a budget presentation. Sam?
Commissioners, Sam Albrecht, County Manager. Welcome to the 2019 draft budget. As required, I delivered this draft budget to you on the 15th of October. It has been publicly noticed. And with that caveat, this is a draft budget. We will take comments on this after the end of the presentation, and questions may be directed to you, or you may direct questions to me. So we are working, formal approval of this budget will occur December 19th after we get all the final changes made. We do expect slight changes may be made. We're still working on end of June projections, firm projections, although we have preliminary projections through the end of October. We think that the budget that you see here is going to be very close to what we want at the end of the year.
I would just compliment our attorney's restraint for not reacting to the bullets that say we will approve it. I know we're very likely.
You could certainly not approve it on 19th of December, but yes, I'm going to recommend final approval on 12/19.
I know that's your goal.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
With that said, I have to thank everybody that helped me with the budget. As you know, I was appointed as budget officer this year. Last year, the treasurer, Rick Pettit, was the budget officer. He's been very helpful in getting me through this process to date. I also want to thank my finance team and also Kyrie, who's now down in Road and Bridge, to help me pull this together. There's a lot of history in this budget that, you know, and to be honest, it was very useful for me to dig into the detail on this down to that level once she moved down to Road and Bridge. So it's been a learning process for me. Again, I think we've got a good product here at the end. And I also want to thank all the elected officials and all the directors who provided input, and staff, and one-on-one meetings and group meetings on this budget to really kind of get us to where we are today. So I'll talk a little bit about the budget process overall. I'll talk about the 2019 budget goals, which came from the BoCC. I'll do some of the department and elected officials' major changes to their budgets, and then I'll wrap this up. So the budget process itself started many months ago. We have an annual calendar for the budget process that starts back in January. We start looking at whether or not how we're doing in February. We start reaching out in the springtime on what different departments may need. April, you know, at the end of the March, and into April, we start looking at first quarter's actuals. How are we doing so far? And we do that at the end of each quarter. How are we doing so far each quarter? And what we're doing a little different now is we're doing a little more month by month projections and month by month reporting. So rather than taking the total budget number and dividing by 12 and spreading out across the year. So we're refining that process, and we hope to do even better with that. June was the target to get budget packets distributed. I think we were actually late June in getting that out, or either early July. We provided those year-end numbers in July, and then August we started trying to compile all this stuff, and that's when I really jumped into it, rolled my sleeves up, and started working with a very large spreadsheet. to do the budget. We started having study sessions in September, and now we are into October when you received your draft budget, and we're now starting looking at those third quarter actuals. Here we are in November. We still have some final adjustments to make. We're drafting up the department summaries with the goals and objectives for 2019, and trying to align that now with the strategic plan as we mentioned. December, we'll do the certification of the mill levies. We hope to do our own mill levies for the Sun Country Meadows, Meadow Stations, Foxwood, and the other ones on December 5th. December 19th, December 15th, I think, is the deadline for all the incorporated districts to get us their mill levies, and then we'll adopt the budget or recommend adoption of the budget on the 19th of December. So as you know, every organization, no briefing would be really complete without an org chart. We have the elected officials up here that have their own departments, and their own budgets, and we work very closely with them to pull everything together in a comprehensive document. The county attorney kind of hangs out here by himself. The county manager takes care of all these departments down here. So what were the budget goals for 2019? Very similar to what we did in 2018. Primary at the top of the list is an overall balanced budget, ending balance in different funds that supports the first quarter operations, maintain and build that contingency and stability funds, look at monthly spend plans, which I just talked about, rather than just taking the total for the year and dividing it by 12, taking future year revenue projections, and then tying that all to the strategic plan, which is just what I mentioned. Those are the overall goals. Specifically, we start drilling down a little bit into taking a look at other goals within the budget planning process, and that was along the lines of personnel, full FTE documentation, and taking a look at pay and benefits, efficiencies studies where we can, looking at the best way of using resources throughout the year, taking a look at our capital investment and how we can do more than 1 year planning. Capital is depreciated over its life cycle, but we have to start planning for some of capital improvements and capital replacements down the road. We continue to work on that process. The policy changes themselves, looking at investments, different county tiers of projects, the depreciation schedule review, those type of things. Also taking a look at budget presentation, aligning it with the strategic plan, trends, and structure. While we had the draft strategic plan goals and strategic priorities out there early, this presentation, since we just adopted the strategic plan, doesn't do that in a lot of detail. We hope to do that more next year. And I will also point out that the executive summary that came with the 22 pages of documents or of spreadsheet reports to the county commissioners tried to explain and start tying some of that. There was a 4-page executive summary that was tacked on top of that, kind of talked about the process and tied it to the strategic plan, as well as tied to some of these other things that I just mentioned as far as projections for future years, capital planning for future years, some of the documentation of FTEs, and those type of budget goals and objectives. With that, I've invited all the elected officials and directors to come to this meeting also, and they're certainly welcome to jump in when we get to their points. And they'll also be here available for questions afterwards, or can make comments afterwards too. I want to take care of the elected officials first. Of course, the treasurer, the surveyor and coroner, commissioners, the sheriff's office, the clerk and recorder, and the assessor, and then I'll wrap up with all the county manager departments. So with that, Rick, I told you I'd give you a couple minutes if you wanted it. Are there any comments you have on this budget process so far, or do you want me to just go through the slides? Just go ahead. Okay, thank you. So I'll talk a little bit about the major revenue and expenses for the county and the changes between 18 and 19, and also looking at FTEs in some of those areas. So here it is on one single page, the entire county budget. So with that, as you know, last year's budget document was well over 100 pages. I expect this one to be over 100 pages when we're done with it. But in summary, here's where we are with the look at the budget. Our total revenue for 19 is expected to be about 27.903 million, pulling a beginning fund balance of 15.8, and that is based on current budget projections to the best of our ability. So this number, of course, will change. As you can see, the audited reports, we'll roll those in as we get to that. There are transfers in of a little over $1 million, giving total revenues and transfers in of $28,910,004, and total funds available of $44,723 and $723,262. Our total expenditures are expected to be in the $27.742 million area, with total transfers out of about $991,000. Total expenditures and transfers out will be $28,734,018, leaving a final ending fund balance of $15,989,244. So that's about $176,000 more than last year. To put this in perspective of beginning fund balance over ending fund balance is about 1.1%. This is a pretty tight budget when you factor everything in. That's why we take the time to go through those third quarter financials, year-to-date actuals, as well as the projection to year end, so that we don't build a budget that goes the other way. So we want to keep that in there. Committed restricted funds of $3.6 million. The significance here on this chart is that last year's committed restricted funds were a little over $3 million. We added $600,000 this year based on the Board of County Commissioners' request to increase that stabilization fund and the restricted funds for emergencies to 3.6. So that drops, and I'm sorry this drops off just a little bit, but that drops the ending fund balance to $323,064.
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of point out if folks were questioning the total transfers in this year of a little over 3 million, when it's been consistently about 1 million. That was the bond sales to
Sun
fund the
Country.
Sun Country project that
Exactly.
were transferred from the Sun Country PID to the county for payment out. So that's kind of a one-year anomaly. And then even though our end balance is just at 1.5% increase is tight, but last year was really the first year we hit the first quarter carryover targets that we've been trying to hit for a decade in this county. So increasing a little bit isn't a bad thing, especially with the stability and contingency funds established now that we did not have.
The other piece in that committed restricted funds piece that we need to talk about is that we set aside from the wind farm inspections about $294,000. This is a little deeper into the packet that I gave you guys. About $400,000, I think, for wind farm inspections. We're wrapping that up, and it looks like because of the quality of the work that the contractor did and the communications with those guys, we only had to spend about a little over $100,000 on those wind farm inspections. So we expect that we will unrestrict about $294,000 at year end. We're working with it's either 294 or 298. I'm not sure the exact number, but it's one of those two. We will work with the audit firm and as well as our accounting firm to figure out the best way to do that. It'll probably be in the budget resolution that we propose. So that 294 came out of buildings. We'll probably see if we can put some of that back into buildings. So that doesn't currently reflect in the 2019 budget. I'd also, since we have recently adopted this strategic plan, I may also recommend that we set aside some for strategic initiatives. And I may have said this in my strategic plan presentation, but unless you put money against a strategic plan, it ends up gathering dust and sitting on a shelf. So you can twist and squeeze and squirm every penny you can out of a strategic plan, but unless you put some cash toward it, it's a lot harder to implement. So those will be changes that we may see, like I said, minor changes between now and the December 19th version. With that said, a couple nice pie charts on total expenses and income for the county. As you know, most of our revenue, 53% or so, comes from taxes. Going around the pie chart, there's a very little on special assessments. There's some on licenses and permits. That's that piece, the gray piece of the pie there. Intergovernmental expenses, taking a look at, or in revenue, charges for services, another little piece on miscellaneous, and then sale of assets is also a tiny sliver up there. This little section right here is intergovernmental transfers and cost allocations.
And again, just the intergovernmental always kind of begs questions. That's primarily the state funding to HHS.
Correct, yes, sir.
Yeah.
On the expenditure side, there's a couple big chunks here that I think are certainly worth talking about. General government is up here in this section. That your public safety is this area right here. Public health, human services is another significant portion. Culture and recreation, special assessments, and retirement fund are these slivers here. This big chunk here is public works. That's road and bridge, buildings, and just day-to-day operations for the public works department. Debt service, not too bad here. Capital outlay is up there, and bond payments and transfers out. So now looking at the individual elected officials, the treasurer's office had only minor changes, nothing significant, and no increased FTEs this year. Coroner, no significant budget changes and no increased FTE. Surveyor, no significant budget changes. Let me go back because I have a typo. Sorry about that. No significant budget changes and no increased FTE.
No Chinese, okay. And then treasurer's office, we filled the pending vacancy.
Yes,
already.
yeah, we are, right. When that vacancy became open, we have started filling some of those, correct.
Yeah, we hired somebody September
Yep.
24th, so when I switch positions, it'll be fully staffed.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioners, sorry, looking for my laser and hit the wrong button. Yeah. So increase in expenditures of only about $4,000, primarily due to pay and benefits. Of course, we also have the overlap between commissioners of a 1 month period when Commissioner Wilcox will leave and Commissioner Pettit will start. So every office has that this year, so we plan for that and we budget for it. Goals for 19, continue to implement that strategic plan, continue to work on the policies, look at land use regulation work, as we mentioned earlier in the BoCC meeting, subdivision regulations and the zoning regulations. I've told CDS and the contractor that that's really all I want for Christmas is new zoning regulations and new subdivision regulations. It's going to be tight with the schedule. We'll see how far we can get. Also looking to pursue grants for work updates to the Transportation Master Plan. That's been a goal for the commissioners for a while, and we want to try to get that done in 19. Sheriff, no increase in FTE. What we decided to do instead is take a look at increasing some pay and benefits in order to make us competitive. The biggest increase in expenditure for the sheriff's office of $600,000 is increased expenses in the jail. Healthcare benefits, mental health, those type of things for the inmates and the people in the jail. So it's tough, but that's what it is. Teresa, any questions, any comments from the sheriff's office? Assessor, no increase in FTE this year. They are, again, backfilling some of the one vacancy, and then there was another vacancy that they're working on getting that filled, but no increase in FTEs. No major increases in expenses. The big GIS project that we're all working on is actually in my budget area, but that will be part of, they're all looking forward to that GIS update too. Goals for 2018, there's a list there. They will continue to look at reappraisal of all property, looking to build a procedure to allow for online appeals, working with the county administration for tools and to rebuild the assessor portion of the website, restructure and rewrite assessor office job descriptions and structure. We actually have job descriptions as a priority across all the county, and we applaud the assessor for jumping right in on that. Continue to progress in agricultural classification and commercial classification and the discovery processes that goes with that. And then a 5-year update on non-routine inspections on 1,500 improved real property parcels. I don't see anybody from the assessor's office here, but again, the key takeaway here is lots of work to be done, no increases in expenses or FTE. Clerk and recorder, Dallas, I threw a couple things up here for you. I think we're increasing 1 FTE for you. About $98,000 increase on the clerk and recorder side, and about $10,000 increase overall in the election side. The goals and challenges it looks like we may be doing driver's license in Elbert County, if not in 19, probably for 20. And how that implementation looks and the equipment and the people that we need to get ready for January 1 launch date will be the biggest challenge. Do you have anything else you'd like to have? Okay. County manager, again, I've got a lot of different departments, smaller in scope than a lot of these. I think that I'll just start running through them. In admin, increased expenditures of about $10,000. My goals are to implement that strategic plan, look at developing a capital plan, update the GIS. There's also another one here that's not on here, and that is I hope to start taking a hard look at our facilities. It ties very closely with the capital plan, but an assessment of the current shape and structure and deferred maintenance and lifespan of our current county buildings. Finance, no increase in FTEs, decrease of expenditures of only about $4,000, streamlining the processes. Centralizing processing of revenues has been a goal for the year. Taking a look at, it's not on this page, but also taking a look at our software for updating our accounting software. That's going to be a project also. Within CDS, there is an increase of 2 FTEs, increased expenditures of about $200,000. Some of that's offset by increased revenue. But it's the 2 FTEs are going to be a piece of that. One is the compliance officer that we're hiring effective January 1 to take a look at zoning and code enforcement and compliance, and then hiring of a planner down there to start doing some of the reviews ourselves instead of being as dependent on a outside contractor. IT, Increased expenditures about $250,000. We're going to take some focus in the IT area and take a hard look in the coming year. But taking a look at the current budget, continued hardware replacements per the schedule that we have, better user compliance, increase the efficiencies, taking a look at long-term tech planning and more project management, so it's better for the users and the citizens. This will include website structural changes also. Extension, no increase in FTE, increased expenditures of about $1,000. Goals, increasing programming for both youth and adults. Human resources, we added a person in human resources, and it's actually going to be a shared position. It's an admin position. It's going to be shared with HR, legal, and myself in order to help us be a little more efficient and keep us on bigger picture projects and we need a little admin help on that. Increased expenditures of about $50,000. Goals to meet the needs of officials and departments to increase staffing, review, and update employee handbook, which we should have done by the end of this year, actually, and then provide quality benefits. Looking at the Office of Emergency Management, no real change to FTE, although there was a request for an additional FTE. We're going to look at decreased expenditures of about $10,000. Strengthen relationships with response partners. As you saw, we're now continuing to get recognition from others, including National Weather Service, on the work that we're doing here. Continue the exercise training and seek grant funding to help reimburse us for those expenses. County attorney doesn't report to me, but I often pick up some of his stuff here. No change in FTE, although he's getting a piece of that admin to help us with helping with processing. Increased expenditures by about $34,000 based on projections on legal cases. Goals, continued guidance and assistance for all county officials and departments, and striving to minimize legal exposure of the county. Facilities and fairground, no increase right now to FTEs, increased expenditures of about $30,000, primarily in maintenance issues that we've identified in the coming year that need to be done. Better facilities, long-term, that long-term planning that I mentioned is going to be critically important, and then improving in maintenance planning. Public Works really covers 3 areas. Roy, you're here, good. Road and Bridge, the Building Department, Asset and Fleet Management. Road and Bridge, an increase of 3 FTEs, increased expenditures of about $200,000. They've got a very comprehensive plan on where that money's going. Rebuilds, chip seals, pave, complete road and bridge capital improvement plan, and then a sign replacement program. Taking a look at the building side, increase of 1 FTE, decrease in expenditures of $90,000. Goals, implement the 2018 IBC codes, and then investigate a contractor licensing program. Public Works, page 2, actually fairgrounds and maintenance come off of this slide. Asset and fleet management, no change in FTEs, minimal increase in expenditures. We continue to better identify our fleet and maintenance programs that go with that. Although HHS does report to me, Jerry does a very nice job with everything to do with public health. No change in FTE this year. Her goals are to completion of the 5-year community health assessment plan, hiring of a credentialed senior environmental health specialist, partner with the Tri-County Health Department and Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment for the training of the environmental health specialist and public health and environment administrator, and then finalization of that office remodel and that new building annex she's getting over there for improving service delivery. On the human services side, again, no change in FTE in Jerry's shop. Goals, that remodel of the office over there and that new modular that's going in is although behind schedule, we hope is going to be wrapped up by this year, and then they'll work on the remodel. The installation will be done this year, then they'll do the remodel and moving next year. Finalization of an electronic document storage process, integration of a 2-gen approach into all programs, development of additional collaborative programs with community partners, and integration of strategies for child protection, caseworker retention. We do a great job of recruiting caseworkers, keeping them, looking at the competitive pay around the county and other issues has been kind of a challenge. So overall, I believe we have a balanced budget as presented. Reserves are secured and increasing. The depth and capacity of support meets our current county needs and projection into the future. The strategic plan implementation is also going to be a key part and focus on this. And then the teamwork piece, like I mentioned earlier. And Rory, I jumped right over if you had any comments on Road and Bridge or Public Works. Okay. Thanks. And that's my final slide.
Comments? Anything up here?
Yeah, one, I just appreciate all the effort that went into this. This seems like the budget time of year, though, as you noted earlier, our planning budget for 20 starts in January of 19. We're always kind of in the budget cycle, but you'd presented a slide early on. I won't ask you to go back that kind of split out the percentages of spending, and I think one thing to highlight there always is Road and Bridge. The Public Works expenditures, about 20% of the budget. Capital expenditures, which is primarily our heavy equipment leases, all rolled together. It's a good quarter of our spending for the year, which is about twice what most counties in this state spend. So in terms of your budget being an articulation of your priorities, it does show that continues to be a big priority. And I think clearly that what's been done this year, again, 1,000+ mile road network, you can't fix everything that has been perhaps neglected over the last decades, but what you've been doing is done to last. And I think that over time we're going to see, market improvements that actually stay in place. And I think both what Road and Bridge is doing and Sam and your efforts not to just put duct tape over things, but fix them right. So there's a little higher upfront costs, but in the long run, it's a much more efficient use of our resources. So thank you.
Okay, anything?
No,
No?
you've accomplished what we asked you to do, and that was balanced budget.
Balanced
We
budget.
set aside another $600,000 for our
That's good.
fund, and I fully appreciate that there was more FTEs, full-time employees requested than were granted, and part of that is what happens in a budget process. So we don't adopt this now, we wait until the 19th of December, is that right?
If you so choose to approve it on the 19th, that'd be great.
Be considered on the 19th.
Okay.
Consider it on the 19th.
Consider it on the.
And I know it was advertised and available, but
Statutorily, I think that it's on the table to do that. I'd probably go to budget jail or something if we don't, but just don't worry
we
about that.
don't want that.
Well, we could go up until Christmas Day.
Actually, yeah, we might have that.
All right. All right. Do I have any public comment? Okay. Go ahead, Marlene.
Marlene Groves, 300 Ridge Road. Thank you, Sam. I have a couple of questions. Is there some place where it says the total increases of employees? Or do you know that maybe? Or you can email me or whatever. versus going page by page, just trying to
Going,
understand the growing.
It's in that executive summary. I think it's a total of 8
Okay.
FTEs.
Summary, that's where it's
Okay.
included, yeah.
My next question is, or comment, is that the increase for IT is actually kind of huge. It's $250,000. And I know we have some challenges in, let's say, services on the citizen end in accessing documents and information on the website, but is there a better breakout of that huge number somewhere?
That would be in the department narratives, yeah.
Department.
Okay,
They're on the narratives, and I think it kind of goes over why.
okay, because that's a big number, so I'm just trying to figure out what kind of giant equipment or whatever, because that's a big number to me.
We're in our contract.
Okay, and then my last couple of comments, I would love for us, as we're starting to put money away, which I think is a good thing, we have really good fund balances, and I see that you have monies set aside specifically for road and bridge, for your contingency, your holdback, whatever you want to call that. And I think that's a little wise, but then sometimes I think if we hold the money, are we going to, the cost be more when we get around to spending it if we, are kind of working on improving some roads? So I don't want to see that get too giant in terms of a contingency fund, but I would like to see us start building some monies, better funds for our facilities in future budgets. It tends to be the ugly stepchild or whatever that doesn't kind of get a whole lot of loving. But otherwise, those are pretty much my comments, and I know it was a lot of work, and I appreciate being able to get the document the way I got it. So I know that was challenging too, so thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. All right. Some more comments? No? All right, so we have a hearing. We'll close the hearing.
Yeah, okay. Mr. Chair, I move that we close the hearing on the budget.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right.
So
On
next
to
steps,
board-
I'm
We're
sorry.
gonna go over the-
Yeah, so the next meeting, we are looking at the mill levies we set as commissioners for both the county
County.
and the other public
At-
improvement districts we
in.
set.
Correct, as the board of the districts that,
Okay.
yeah. So we'll open a hearing, we'll do
Open, close,
a
open,
mill levy,
close.
we'll close it, we'll do another one.
Cool, thank you.
And I'm working closer with the assessor's office to get all those numbers in and the treasurer's office to make sure I don't mess it up, and hopefully by the 5th of December, we can do all that.
Cool. Thanks.
Okay, on to board planning.
Commissioner, before we go into the list, I just want to make a quick statement as well. There's been some comments today about trouble receiving documents or finding documents on the website. We know we have a clunky system right now. We do have Civic Plus coming online, which is our agenda and meeting management system. Sam and I had talked earlier, and going into the election, we decided it wasn't a good time for us to launch that in the middle of the election. So we have had it up for staff to be able to practice with. And they've been doing it. Christina in particular has done a very good job of working on that. But December, Sam and I still have to meet, but we will do that. But December 5th, our next meeting, is when we intend to go live with that system. It'll be just like anything else new. We might have a few bumps and bruises along the way, but when we get that set up, it's going to be a real benefit to everybody, public, for you guys, for staff. To be able to get the documents out there and to be seen. So I just wanted to remind, that hasn't been forgotten. It just kind of got.
Yeah, thank you.
Hey,
You feel more comfortable with this than drives?
Yes, absolutely. So that is something that we'll be doing for the public's benefit. We will have a link on the front page of the website where you can get those documents, and it goes right to Civic, to where there's that. So it'll be up there. It'll be a drastic improvement. So for what we have on tap for, on the December 5th meeting, the meeting minutes from October 24th, meeting minutes from today, a final budget update if it's necessary, consideration of finance policy or discussion, update on county fee schedules, consideration of the adopting the IBC 2018 building codes, Elbert County Library Board appointments, and then we have several of those meetings where we'll jump in and out doing mill levies, consideration of mill levy for Meadow Station, Foxwood, and Sun Country.
Okay, yeah, if you could add the, we'll probably be doing the second reading on those.
On the
On the
ordinance.
ordinances. Mill levy approvals you got. Yeah, yeah, I was gonna say, we
We kind of,
approved that during consent today, so, yeah, I think that was just a, okay. We'll let it ride for at least a month before we change it, yeah.
is the RFP out on the GIS, Sam?
Yeah,
Oh, good, okay, 'cause that, all right. Okay,
I think we're good then.
all right.
That's all I was tracking.
So, we have a land hearing this afternoon at 1. So what we'll do is we'll recess till 1 o'clock.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Cool. That was fun.